Hello everyone, it's Kirsty again. Today I'm doing a case from Australia. Today we're looking at, and from the request of from a person on a comment, one of the members, thank you very much. We're going to be looking at William Tyrrell, who on the 12th of September 2014 vanished from a place in Australia in Kendall, New South Wales. This was taken an hour before he vanished. It's what he was wearing. He's 3 to 3.5 years old, and he was last seen at 10:30 a.m. playing in the front garden. So first of all, I just want to say that there is a reason why I don't do that many cases in Australia, and that is because for some reason my ability with astrology tends to work better in the USA. Oddly, I don't know why. I've started using miles for measurements and American ways to do measurements and all sorts of things like that. When I do it Australian, I'm going to use kilometres instead of miles, obviously. But I feel that it's a little different because miles and kilometres are different. So anyway, I just want to say that the reason why I don't do Australian cases as much is because I can't hone in so clearly all the time. In saying that, I have done a few, and I've actually been involved in one and helped out. So I don't disregard Australia. I keep up with everything that's going on, but there's so much murder in America. I just be able to, for some reason, I can tune in quite easily. Okay, moving forward, little William. I erected a chart for 10:30 as that's the time he was playing and that he was last seen. His mum called Tyrrell at about 10:50, but I haven't got an exact time. But everyone is very specific about 10:30 being the last time he was seen. So that's the first chart that we're going to look at. And then I'm going to do the mapping and we'll see what we get. So this is 10:30 a.m. on the 12th of September in Kendall. Now I'm going to zoom in too far yet again. Every time I do this. I wonder if we could zoom. Okay. Okay, so as always, there's a dog barking in the background, and it's not mine this time, it's down the street. I'm sorry. But I want to carry on with the video, and the dog's not going to stop, so. This is the 10:30 chart when William was playing outside the house in the morning. Now, the thing I hate seeing the most, and you'll know this probably if you watch all these videos, on nearly every video, when I say we see the moon at 29 degrees or an angle at 29 degrees, it's not great. And the very first thing that popped up was the moon at 29 degrees of Aries in the 5th house, and the IC and MC, the IC being the end of the matter at 29 degrees Aquarius. So instinctually I thought that maybe he was still alive. Now the reason for that is, I'll show you that in a minute. There's a few indicators. I'm going to pause because of this dog, it's silly. Okay, so in that time what I did was I went into astro.com and I took the orbs down 30 to 30%. So you can see dramatically less lines than there was before. So what that's done is given us very tight orbs, and it shows us a clearer pathway and with what's going on. Okay, Jupiter is ruling William, and that's because Sagittarius is on the ascendant, so Jupiter is always associated with Sagittarius. Now, Jupiter's up here in the 9th house, and the 9th house is places that are usually quite far away, so that's concerning. It seems like he's not close to home, he's far away. Obviously he's not at 10:30, but this shows us what's happening ahead of time as well, interestingly. Okay, the ruler of the perpetrator is Gemini, and that is Mercury. Now, first I want to point out that you can see a blue line here between Mercury at 13 degrees of Libra and Jupiter at 12. That is a very close orb, and that shows me that William, Jupiter, and the perpetrator or perpetrators knew of each other. Now, what I'm also seeing here is that it can show us a couple of things. It could have been two people. It could have been a male and a female. It's in the decan of Venus, and Mercury being in Libra, which is ruled by Venus, also indicates that this is a possibility. Another possibility is that it was somebody in the neighbourhood, neighbours, or now it can rule siblings and cousins and things like that, but his sister was a little baby, so that's ruled out. So I'm thinking more along the lines of the neighbourhood and neighbours. So there's either, and could be both, two people, a male and a female, possibly in a vehicle, because that's Mercury and Gemini as well. Yeah, and if not, somebody that lives nearby in the neighbourhood, neighbours. Now, the co-ruler of William, as always, and especially so because he's under 5, is the moon. And the moon is sitting in the 5th house, which actually represents the health of a person's child. And it being at 29 degrees of Aries is really very not good. It's very unfortunate. And not only that, it's making a quincunx, which is this dotty line here, to Mars in the 12th house of hidden enemies and secrets and horrible things. Mars is angry. It's at 28 degrees 44, so nearly 29 degrees of Scorpio. That's a sexual predator. And I hate to say that, but it is. And Mars is forming a very tight square to that 29 degree midheaven. So all in all, it doesn't look very good at 10:30. It looks as though he was taken by somebody in the neighbourhood, perhaps. Maybe someone in the neighbourhood organised someone to drive there and pick him up and take him away. I don't know, it just feels and seems as though there's definitely two people that at least know about this anyway, if not are responsible. So the moon, as I said, is co-ruling William. In the 5th house, it shows us that he was just in the garden playing, but 29 degrees of Aries shows us that he was right at a point of something was going to happen. So the timing's good as well. It's obvious that something did happen at 10:30. In terms of mapping, I'm going to use 29. I'll go out 29 kilometres and 1.7. We'll start obviously at his house and work our way outwards. It gives some directions. Obviously, a lot more people know about the case than I do. I haven't actually followed this case in particular too closely. So I don't know a lot of the details as much as I know some people would, especially the lady that asked me to do it. So I'm hoping that anything in the map or directions and things like that will make sense to you, because it doesn't always make sense to me. What does make sense to me is that somebody that knew William, or knew of William, who lived nearby him, has taken him from his garden and with the intention of harming him, and with the intention, when Saturn represents the deceased body, when we see it in the 12th house like that, it shows us that there's an intention of disposing of the body so nobody can find it again after whatever happens. Whatever their intention is, afterwards they're going to make sure nobody can ever find him again. Mercury rules the perp, as I've said, and it is squaring Pluto, so there's some extra anger going on there. Pluto's in the 2nd house. Interestingly, when the police are called, it moves into the 1st house, so it shows by 10:50 that William's already in danger and possibly been hurt, even in the vehicle on the way. What else do we have here? Jupiter being in the 9th, as I said, is a worry. It makes me think that he's too far to be found. But I'm hopeful that perhaps the moon, as in many cases of children under the age of 5, will lead to where he may be, or an area of interest. I hope so much that he's alive, and that somebody just took him because they wanted a child and he's being looked after. But when I erect charts, and they seemingly coincidentally always turn up with these 29-degree terrible parts, it's just extra proof that something's gone wrong. And you can watch my videos over and over and you'll see it. You'll continually see this. I point it out every time. Okay, let's move on over and have a look at the map. Okay, so here's the basic map and the few areas that I have mapped. The IC, the moon, the descendant, Gemini, Jupiter. Now, I've gone out that far at the moment, which is like 29 kilometers, but obviously it's important to get to the very source. And oops, that's slightly off. It's still on the property, that's okay. This is the house that he disappeared from. But you'll see that I keep pausing when I do charts for children. My voice just stops working. When I do it for all people, my voice stops working, but especially children, so sometimes I just have to stop and clear my throat, so I do apologise. Okay, so this is the garden that he disappeared from. Now, as you'll see, this is state forest. There's tons of it, but Australian police are onto it and they searched a whole lot of it. Now, you can't discount the fact that maybe he wandered off. Well, I can't. It happens. But if so, you wouldn't think he would have gotten very far and that he would have been found. Anyway, let's go forward. What I find interesting is this line here is the position of Mercury. So, is it? No, hang on a minute. Let me go back. It's the IC, I'm sorry. So, the end of the matter, okay, is this line here, and then this line here is the Gemini line, the perpetrator. 17 Gemini, that's what that is. So what interested me is, because it's Gemini and it shows neighbours, the end of the matter, which is obviously the person that did something to this little boy, or the result of what happened to him, goes through this neighbour's house here, and the perpetrator line goes through this neighbour's house here, and this one here, oh, and this one here. So there's a few houses, but I'm interested in the next door neighbours' houses because, well, you just should always be interested in who's close by. So that is interesting. Now, what else it shows is that the perpetrator possibly went this way down Benaroon out of here, Barter Creek, and then possibly went upwards up here. So that goes all the way out to Grants Beach, crosses Queens Lake. I don't know this area. I don't know Grants Beach, but other people might. The IC end of the Matter line is here, and the Moon line is here. So we need to pay attention. So the Moon line goes as far, for me, as Fernbank Creek, Hastings River Drive, Hastings River. But what I'm going to do is just go closer, and then we'll circle the edges just in case people can see something that I don't know about. Okay, so this is where the lines cross. Albert Street, whatever this is here. Albert Street again, this thing here. Now these could be areas that possibly they may have seen something else. Forest Glen Road down there, there's a bit of off bushland there, that'd be interesting to look. There's so much room. Okay, we can't just go too far. So the crossing here for the perpetrator is an area where there seems to be hardly anything as per normal. This area here, I suppose the closest area is this Resort Road, Botanic Drive, Lake Ridge Drive. Then we have Black Creek Road. I mean, but this is, you know, this is insane. We can't just look, but do this. Walker's Creek, Herons Creek Road. Actually, that's interesting. That stands out. Logan's Crossing. Oh, that's that Moon line. Okay. It's actually quite interesting. Herons Creek Road. Okay, look, as I said, I don't know the areas. I don't know what's been tipped off, if anything. I know that a suspect lived here and that nothing went to his place. So, and I believe that he was ruled out, I think. So we're going out as far as Port Macquarie, Morton's Creek, Long Flat, Blackman's Point, Innisview, Borgana, Killabah, Yarratt, the Yarratt Forest, Manning Point. But the main areas of interest are this Pipe Clay, Long Flat, Hollisdale, along here, Morton's Creek, Blackman's Point, Fernbank Creek, Port Macquarie. Maybe the person that did this is a resident of Port Macquarie. But enough messing around. Let's zoom in here. There's too much bushland to search. There just seriously is way too much bushland. All I can suggest at this point is that a person has driven west. This wedge here is interesting. I mean, I suppose if there was any bush that I would be checking, well, I would check all the bush, obviously. You would spend your life checking that bush. But this area in particular, where whatever this is behind Albert Street, 67 and 61 Albert Street, I'd be wanting to go into there, which is, I don't know, is it this neighbour's? I don't know where the state forest is. Look, that goes through that house too. There's so many houses it goes through. I mean, you can't accuse everybody. You can't say, oh, this person knows. But going back to what I do know from the chart, just quickly again. Oh, this is the 000 call at what I think was 1050. So I could be wrong, but still, we still have Jupiter in the 9th house. We still have Gemini ruling the perpetrators. Now, okay, was there a vehicle at 10:30? So the vehicle is represented by Aquarius, and Aquarius is Saturn, and Saturn is squaring Jupiter, which is William. Okay, so the ruler of the 3rd house is going to a hidden location to cause damage and destroy this family and hurt poor little William. It's awful. This coal chart also shows that actually it shows that it's very possible that he may be in water. There's Neptune, and the end of the matter is in Pisces here. It's interesting because the 3rd house represents the car, but in the 3rd house of, not that one, of when he was last seen, the 4th house cusp is also Aquarius. So it is like this vehicle just finally picked him up. Well, not finally, but by 10:50 he had picked him up, and it's showing us that clearly that it's the 3rd house cusp. So he was in the vehicle at 10:30. Okay, this is that triple one as well. Interestingly, Venus is closer to the midheaven here as well, so it's even more indicative that there's possibly a female that knows what's going on. Oh, and interesting point to look at. Mercury, the ruler of the suspect, is in mutual reception with Venus in Virgo. So that's mutual, 2 people mutually doing something that they want to do. Now we can see Pluto's moved into the 1st house. It was in the 2nd house, and 2nd house is money. I can understand why there has been accusations of him being trafficked or whatever, but it is almost like it's possible that money's been exchanged for this person bringing him to another person or just taking him away. Not sex trafficking, but maybe some exchange of money. But then as it moves into the 1st house here at 10:50, that also shows me that he was, again, definitely in the car from 10:30 to 10:50, so they've driven at least 20 minutes away, and then some harm has occurred then. And that, as you can see, Pluto is making an inconjunct, or a quincunx again, like this other one, to Jupiter, which is the ruler of William. So everything matches that shouldn't in a situation where you would hope someone's alive. So I think there will be a resolution, and I think possibly it'll just be through more police work and persistence. Obviously, it's very lengthy. Obviously, they've done a damn good job of hiding him, and but I don't see that he'll be hidden forever. So let's hope that if it is anybody in the neighbourhood, or maybe the neighbours will come out and say that they saw something more, or maybe someone else will say who it was. If there was two people, maybe one of them will just cave in and won't be able to handle it if the pressure gets any closer to them. Anyway, regardless, I really hope that something happens soon. I wish it was a better reading. I wish I could say that I think he's alive and safe, but unfortunately I don't think that's the case. But I do think two people know. I do think people in the neighbourhood know something, and I think it's important to look back on that map, and if you know a lot about the case, perhaps see if anything matches with it, and I hope it helps in some way. Thank you for listening, and take care, everyone. See ya.